for those of you that have been following my coverage with the 7M Dancers Shekinah Church group that's in California, the guy Robert Shinn, who is the alleged cult leader that filed a lawsuit against me last year. Well, I have a huge update about that coming soon. So not only about my lawsuit, but about a new lawsuit that's been filed against him by dancers that have left and former members.
Hi beautiful people, welcome back. Hope everybody is doing fantastic wherever you are in this world. Happy Friday. I am so excited it is Friday. Just for the mere fact knowing that my kids go on spring break next week, so a vacation for them is somewhat of a vacation for me, even if it eliminates for a week the morning commutes, dropping kids off, picking kids up. It's a win for me. In today's video, there is so much to talk about in regard to Without a Crystal Ball, aka Katie Joy, in regard to all her postings of Robert Shinn, 7M, knowing that she is still involved in an active lawsuit with 7M Robert Shinn. But before we get into that, my usual disclaimer, please do not take what I say as fact. Feel free to do your own research and come to your own conclusion. So in one of my previous videos, I did mention to you guys that there was a filing in regard to the 7M Robert Shinn and Without a Crystal Ball lawsuits in Minnesota. And this was a notification for a remote hearing, which will be held on May 18th at 3:20 p.m. So I'm actually assuming that this hearing is just in regard to a new judge being appointed to this case and getting familiar with the people involved in this case, making sure everybody's on the same page. Nonetheless, after catching up with what is going on in the lawsuits in regard to Robert Shinn in California, things are beginning to make a little bit of sense to me. And what I'm talking about is Without a Crystal Ball's constant posting of 7M's dancers that are still affiliated to Robert Shinn. She actually posted a photo of Isaiah Shinn, Miranda, and James Derrick away for a weekend in another state. I think they were skiing or something like that. And there was just no basis to that picture or that posting, because I felt now things are beginning to get a bit stalkerish. I don't even think that's a word, but we'll go with it. KJ has felt that she has been vindicated, and I say that because from the last filing in her defamation lawsuit, where the judge stated that KJ could plausibly be a journalist and qualify for journalistic privilege, and that Robert Shinn would have a hard time proving malice in her defamation lawsuit. Then something happened in Robert Shinn's case in California, where a cross-complaint was filed, and KJ announced that she had put Robert Shinn, Miranda Derrick, and James Derrick on notice because she said, and I quote, "The cross-complaint in California provides WACB a fair reporting defense, and Robert Shinn will not be able to prove malice." She sent Robert Shinn a demand letter stating that if he does not dismiss his defamation lawsuit against her, she will be seeking sanctions for attorney's fees. Side note, as you can see from the screenshot posted by Unirock, aka, in my opinion, Katie Joy's employee, actually doubled down and rallied on her behalf, stating that, as you can see, Katie Joy has been vindicated. Really? Then she started posting about 7M dancers that have come forward to tell their stories, and then post about Isaiah and a lawsuit filed against him. And then she goes ahead and makes a post which states it's an update on something that involves her business, work, friends. Katie Joy, once again, you got no friends. Why are you trying to give people the wrong idea that you still have friends involved in this situation? In this posting, she says, "So I contacted the counsel for the defendants. My local counsel is now cooperating with counsel in LA for the defendants. I am willing to provide anything and anything I can to help them, as well as to make sure Robert knows that Jessica is not the damn villain here." Now, before we go any further, has anybody known Katie Joy to be or go out of her way to help somebody if it doesn't benefit her? And that kept my eyebrows raised for a long time, until the juicy stuff came out in filings in California. And as they say, what is done in the dark always comes to light. One of the individuals that Robert Shinn actually sued settled with him. And side note, I commend her for this because she is doing what's right for her. That settlement will never be known. But what she did do is hand over information to Robert Shinn's attorneys, all her communication she had with others in regard to this matter. Remember, KJ made a post about the blogger that went by Kalsiak, and KJ accused her and said that she lied in a sworn declaration, saying she repeatedly misrepresented what occurred, and KJ seemed so bothered. So why was Katie Joy so bothered? For us to later find out via BALLZ 2.0 on Instagram, who is absolutely fantastic. This young lady reached out to BALLZ and actually gave her communication, or should I say, the DMs that Katie Joy actually sent to her, which I did do a video about that, which I will link down below. Moving on. Katie Joy then posted, alleged cult leader Robert Shinn is now officially listed as a cross-defendant in a massive lawsuit in Los Angeles County. Shinn, along with his associates and several of his businesses, are being sued by a group of former members and well-known influencers for a variety of counts, such as human trafficking, gender violence, unjust enrichment, sexual battery, failure to maintain wage statements, breach of voluntary fiduciary duty, aiding and abetting human trafficking, and more. The influencers, along with former members, allege their lives were taken over through manipulation, control, verbal abuse, and isolation. The group is seeking damages and reimbursement for unpaid wages. If unsuccessful, Robert Shinn and associates could be on the hook for millions. Robert Shinn has denied all claims of sexual battery, human trafficking, fraud, and denies he is a cult leader or running a cult. Then she goes on and she posts about, which in my opinion, this is just unnecessary to even be posting about, because she posts, looks like a group of people that claim they're on public figures seem to shop in photos at movie premieres and on red carpets. So strange. It's almost like they are pretending they aren't public figures. Pictured above Daniel Joseph and woman of God Hannah Shinn at FVM Global Magazine event in 2013. But what do I know? I'm only a journalist that is also a public figure. Wait, this was taken in 2013. Why is she going so far back? Why is she trying so hard? Whatever she needs to prove in the court of public opinion. It just makes no sense. They have since left the church, and in my opinion, once again, there was no basis to this posting. Well, who am I? And in my opinion, once again, I think she is just being petty. She goes ahead and then makes another post about Robert Shinn, to which she says that this was his claim to fame, and you can pause and you can read this, because once again, she is being petty and just poking the bear. Also, this post has been deleted. She then goes on and posts again about Robert Shinn and Shirley Kim, how they're profiting off the dancers that are leasing out these homes from them. And then she posted about Isaiah Shinn, where, as you can see, again, this was also deleted, where she says you got served, and quickly removed it because she thought she could be on top of things. And according to our trusted source, and as KJ says, her favorite troll, BALLZ 2.0, was reached out to and given this tidbit of information. Exposing reached out to me to clear up that Katie Joy Paulson, Isaiah post and delete. Katie saw a story from Exposing about exciting news, in quotations, and simply assumed it was about Isaiah being served, but failed to include Matthew Shinn. Without a crystal ball is not in good standing with Exposing or Melanie Goldman. They are not her source for anything 7M. Katie wants people to think she is much more connected than she really is. Katie has no self-control, wanting to be the first to break the story, posted, and then MG and Exposing told her to knock it off, and she deleted the post. Then tagged Melanie Goldman and Exposing for no reason at all in her next. Exposing wants to make it clear she wants none of KJB's drama, wants to stay focused on the dancers, and is going to block Katie. Melanie literally hates her, and apparently Katie is really intimidated by Mel. Exposing gave me permission to post as she wants nothing to do with the Hanover Ratchet YouTuber. Another petty post in my opinion, where she assumes Robert Shinn could be on the hook for almost $100,000 in legal fees because a former member and 3 bloggers filed an anti-SLAPP, which is a law in California. This is the definition of anti-SLAPP. California's anti-SLAPP statute provides for a special motion to strike a complaint where the complaint arises from activity exercising the rights of petition and free speech. Now this is where things started to make sense to me, and I knew I could be right by picking up that KJ is starting to run a bit scared by posting everything going on in California so she can win in the court of public opinion, by making sure people know what was going on and that she was right from the beginning with everything that she reported about Robert Shinn. No. Recently, there was a huge shakeup in the case of 7M in California because when this blogger bowed out of the defamation lawsuit and settled with Robert Shinn, the communications that was turned over by her to 7M's attorneys, to which 7M's attorneys felt that they could prove that these people conspired and intentionally put out false information about Robert Shinn to ruin his reputation. In turn now, 7M has filed a motion to reverse the ruling in reference to the outcome of the anti-SLAPP that was granted, or should I say, partially granted. Now, could this be the reason why KJ is so nervous and going above and beyond to gain favor and sympathy from the court of public opinion, as you will see in these filings, which I am not going to read everything, just where KJ seems to be involved. All credit goes to Al Rubin on Twitter, which I truly appreciate what she does and keeping us informed. I will leave her Twitter handle in the description. Please feel free to go and follow if you want to be kept in the loop with Woacb filings. Now, once again, like I said, I'm not going to be reading this whole filing, just the parts I felt is important that actually involves or mentions Katie Joy. The copy of Ms. Schaefer at Carl's Yuck account recently provided 2 plaintiffs, including large numbers of posts, comments, direct messages, and extensive other data and metadata, requiring extensive analysis. For example, a single group chat between Ms. Schaefer and Ms. Phipps and Ms. Carroll between March 24, 2022 and July 10, 2022 has more than 1,600 pages of messages, excluding 1939 photos and videos that are part of the group chat. A group chat between Ms. Goldman and Ms. Schaefer, Ms. Phipps and Ms. Carroll, the Goldman chat between April 6, 2022 and August 1, 2022 has almost 500 pages of messages, also excluding 266 photos and videos. From the small section of the material reviewed thus far, there is ample evidence directly showing the formation of and Ms. Goldman's joined her in a conspiracy to publish and disseminate defamatory statements against the plaintiffs. For instance, the Goldman chat included statements concerning the veracity of their own postings, such as, on April 10, 2022, one of the defendants asserted that plaintiff Robert Shinn regulated sex between married couples, but admitted, "I don't have proof, though, just guessing." On April 19, 2022, Ms. Phipps or Ms. Carroll wrote to Ms. Goldman, "Thank you so much for all your help, Melanie. I'm so glad we're working with you. I honestly would be lost and probably sued." On May 3rd, 2022, during a message board conversation between Ms. Phipps, Ms. Carroll, and Ms. Goldman, one wrote about a post made against plaintiffs. I'm making that up, but it's probably true. That same day, Ms. Goldman encouraged her co-conspirators to concoct non-existent sources to further their credibility with doc producers. Yeah, we could say he instead of she to fuck with them. Then Jessica can be like, "Oh, they are talking to someone else." And on May 12, 2020, during another exchange in the Goldman chat, one wrote about cleaning up their checks from the campaign against 7M, only after receiving a cease and desist letter. Yeah, I don't know either. I was thinking we could all post a vague statement that we are aware 7M disagree with 5 statements we've made, so we remove those specific posts, but we don't retract any statements we've made because none of it's knowingly false. At no point did Ms. Goldman disapprove or take any action to disassociate herself from what her co-defendants were doing. In fact, the exact opposite occurred. She provided further support to her co-defendants, publishing and disseminating these statements. For instance, on April 6, 2022, Ms. Goldman made salacious, descriptive, explicit, and intense allegations about her time in Shekinah. During a 2-hour Zoom video conference with the co-defendants, although Ms. Goldman wanted to remain anonymous, she wanted to control the narrative. In addition, Ms. Goldman gave Ms. Phipps, Ms. Carroll, and Ms. Schaefer directions and made suggestions on what they should say against plaintiffs and when they should say it during her co-defendants' Instagram live events. Just as importantly, Ms. Goldman reviewed the questions her co-defendants frequently received about plaintiffs when online and revised what her co-defendants should say. She further wanted Ms. Phipps, Ms. Carroll, and Ms. Schaefer to work exclusively with her. During this time, Ms. Goldman also noted her lack of care with whether the information being published and disseminated online against plaintiffs was true. For example, one of the sources for the defamatory material came from an individual named Katie Joy. All of the co-defendants told Ms. Goldman that they were reluctant to use Ms. Joy's material because it was poorly sourced, but Ms. Goldman insisted that they use it. The record is replete with evidence showing not only discussions but also video meetings taking place between Ms. Goldman and her co-conspirators, co-defendants. The record further shows that during the same time they worked together to publish and disseminate material against plaintiffs, with Ms. Goldberg and her co-conspirators even acknowledging that some of their claims were made up. This evidence shows that Ms. Goldman shared a similar interest with the co-conspirators, co-defendants, namely to bring down plaintiffs by whatever means necessary through the publication and dissemination of defamatory material known to be false. Ms. Goldman was aware that this material was made up, but nonetheless provided material assistance in the conspiracy and its actions. With all that read to you guys, let's go back to what they said about Katie Joy Paulson. During this time, Ms. Goldman also noted her lack of care with whether the information being published and disseminated online against plaintiffs was true. For example, one of the sources for the defamatory material came from an individual named Katie Joy. All of the co-defendants told Ms. Goldman that they were reluctant to use Ms. Joy's material because it was poorly sourced. Before moving on, I want you guys to listen to this clip.
I'm confident. I feel okay saying it because I confirmed it. The sources that reached out to her in the beginning have stated they do not communicate with her anymore. They refuse to communicate with her. They stopped very early on because Katie Joy Paulson took their information. She had zero compassion for them. She only cared about herself and the shock factor. And she put the information out there when she wasn't supposed to, when she said she wouldn't. Okay, there is that. She claims that she's still involved in communication with or she alluded to, she's very good about that, still has communication with Miranda Derrick's parents. That ended very early on too. They learned they could not trust her. Nobody can trust her. And so they kind of went their separate ways. There is another source says the same thing, that they just knew immediately this was wrong of me to even try to get involved, and they try to back out. They want nothing to do with Katie Joy Paulson. I've spoken to one of the other defendants in this lawsuit, one of the other bloggers briefly. And so when I asked what her relationship was working with Katie Joy, it was just kind of, well, you can't trust her. She blocked me for X, Y, and Z. She wanted to have kind of control of the story, of the narrative. And they said, they kind of wanted to have control of their story, their narrative too, but they just knew that there was no working together with her. My understanding is the only person that still communicates with Katie Joy Paulson. Keep in mind, these dancers that she acts like she tags and she acts like she's friends with, I've confirmed 3 of them. They do not like Katie Joy Paulson. They do not trust her. They want nothing to do with her. One of them stated she made the situation 10 times worse than it ever should have been. So there is one person that apparently that she does have some communication with still, and that is the producer of this documentary.
The reason I actually played that clip from Southern Mutton, I'm going to put her whole video down in my description box. Please feel free to go and watch it. It's just to reinforce and to prove to you and show you from somebody that has actually dealt with the same people that Katie Joy was dealing with. The same experience other people have had with Katie Joy. She cannot play well. She cannot work with anybody else. She just has this complex of just wanting to be, notice me, I'm in charge. And like I've always said, you guys, if you got it, you got it. And unfortunately, Katie Joy doesn't have it, which led me to think all this time, and this was just my train of thought, when these dancers actually came out with this cross complaint and to tell their stories, she was so quick to send this demand letter to Robert Shinn stating that drop this lawsuit against me or else I will seek sanctions, all that BS. But this is my thing. When Katie Joy came and told the story about Robert Shinn, she told this story not on facts or proof, but of hearsay. She took this one person, Lydia Chung's experience with Shekinah Church, and she projected it onto everybody else. When these dancers came forward and told their stories, they didn't say that they were waterboarded. They didn't say they were run off the road by Robert Shinn in his car. They didn't come forward and say how they were forced into marriages and it was because of Robert Shinn that they were, involved in immigration fraud. And let's not forget, when she first started reporting on the story, she said that the dancers themselves, like Miranda's husband, James, Derek, he is a criminal himself because she felt that James was the one that recruited Miranda into this alleged cult. Does she think that by springing into action to help the case in California and offering her services and whatever else that she has in her possession, they're going to be courteous to her and help her in her case in Minnesota? And at the end of the day, I think Katie Joy is running scared. She is petrified. She's beginning to feel the heat. And not that I blame her, but on the other hand, she brought all this upon herself. Let me know what you guys think. Are these DMs detrimental to Katie Joy? Are we going to find out how much more she is involved? Or was she involved in the conspiracies? Did she disseminate false information? How far did she go to bring negativity or paint Robert Shinn in a negative light? Because from the way that she has continuously posted about Robert Shinn and company, KJ, in my opinion, is running scared. And she wants the public to know that he is evil, this bad person, and grasping at every straw to try weave her way out of this lawsuit. And in my opinion, like, for example, the blogger that settled with Robert Shinn, in my eyes, that was so commendable by bowing out, even if you know there is something there. But losing all that money and being under so much stress is not worth it. She did what was right for her. Hats off to her. And I wish her nothing but the best. Unfortunately, Katie Joy doesn't know how to do the right thing. One last thing before I go. Katie Joy replied to a post made by this young lady which says, "So what are you going to say at my funeral now that you've killed me?" To which Katie Joy responds, "Whose body do I need to hide that killed you? That bitch is going down." That to me was so hilarious because Katie Joy once again tried to spring into action to be the hero. And we all know Katie Joy doesn't even leave her house. That's how scared she is of interacting with people, of being questioned by people, in my opinion. So for her to be acting also like I'm there for you, I have my back, she has nobody else's back but her own. Period. Katie Joy, in my opinion, is petrified. She's scared and is beginning to feel the heat. You know what? I don't blame her. But at the end of the day, she put herself in this position. She had a choice to bow out, to say, well, this is something I'm not prepared to go through again. I'm done. I'm sorry. Here we go. I retract everything I've said. I'm going to go about my life. Unfortunately, she can't do that. And once again, she put herself where she is. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your time. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Please be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And don't forget, make good memories. Bye, guys.